Half the things you're chasing right now, you're chasing for an audience that stopped watching years ago. The car you picture, the number in the bank, the version of you that finally walks into a room and gets the nod. Picture who's giving that nod, and you'll usually find a face from when you were 16. That's the strange part. Your ambition has a target, and the target was set by people you no longer speak to. Think about who you were at 15, 17, 20. There was a small group whose opinion ran your whole nervous system. The kids who decided what was cool. The cousin who always had more. The friend who got the attention you wanted. The teacher who looked at you like you'd amount to nothing. Or the one who looked at you like you might. That group became your scoreboard. And without ever sitting down to decide it, you started measuring success by what would make them finally see you. Here's what nobody tells you. You moved on from those people. The criteria didn't. You stopped texting them. You stopped showing up to the same places. Some of them you couldn't pick out of a crowd now. But the standard they installed kept running quietly underneath every big decision you've made since. Which degree felt impressive? Which job sounded good, said out loud? Which kind of body, which kind of partner, which kind of life would read as winning to a jury that's been dismissed for a decade? You're building your life to win an argument nobody remembers having. And it shows up in the smallest tells. You hit a real milestone, something you genuinely wanted, and the satisfaction lasts about a day. Then it goes flat. You assume you need a bigger milestone. But the flatness comes from somewhere else. The person you secretly wanted to impress wasn't in the room, and some part of you noticed. So why does an old reference group hold on this long? Because the brain locks in social hierarchy hardest during adolescence, when status felt like survival. Back then, being cast out of the group felt like a threat to your existence. So your mind did something efficient and brutal. It took whatever earned status in that specific tribe and saved it as the master template for what a worthy life looks like. That template waits. It doesn't expire on its own, and it gets handed forward without inspection. You take a template built to impress a handful of teenagers, and you run it at 28, 30, 34, pouring real years into it. Let me make this concrete. A guy I'll call Marcus spent 6 years building a business he hated the texture of. Long hours, a product he didn't care about, chosen because it photographed well and sounded serious at a reunion. He hit the revenue number he'd fixed on since school, and he felt flat. When he finally traced the number back, it landed on one kid from year 10 who used to mock him for being broke. He'd organized half his adult life around a comeback to someone who'd forgotten his name. You probably have your own version, the skill you're grinding because it sounds elite, the audience you want partly so a specific old face scrolls past and stops. Watch how it bends the small choices too. You pick the project that explains well over the one that lights you up. You chase the follower count past the point where it changes anything in your real life. You frame your whole year around a launch, a physique, a move to a city, and somewhere in the wiring there's a face you're hoping hears about it. The template doesn't shout. It just nudges, choice after choice, until you look up and a third of your decisions were placed for a crowd that left. And the cruelest part is the timing. The people who set your standard saw you at your most unfinished. They judged a half-built version of you and walked off. You then spent a decade trying to prove that snapshot wrong to people who never stayed to see the developed photo. You're sending evidence to an address that's been vacant for years. So how do you tell a real desire from an inherited one? You run a quiet test. Take the thing you say you want most right now. Picture having it fully. The body, the money, the project shipped, the freedom. Now strip out every other human being. Nobody ever finds out. No post, no mention, no more visibility than a habit streak logged in Hone on your own phone. Link in the description. And none of your past or present ever learns you achieved it. It's yours, completely private, forever. Does it still pull you? Or does most of the charge drain out the second the audience disappears? That drop is your answer. The part that survives total privacy is yours. The part that collapses was on loan from the gallery. Sit with that test honestly, because most people flinch and skip past it. Run it on the big ones. The career you describe at parties, the lifestyle you're saving for, the shape you want your body in. Some will hold steady, glowing on their own. Others will deflate the moment the audience leaves. That deflation is the most useful signal you'll get all year. Now, before you torch every goal that fails the test, slow down. There's a fair objection here, and it's a good one. Wanting to be seen is a feature, wired deep, and pretending otherwise is its own kind of lie. Recognition from people you respect is a real human nutrient. The problem was always the casting. You handed front row seats to people you'd never choose today, and you forgot to update the list. So you keep the desire for an audience, you fire the old one, and hold auditions. Look at who's actually in your life now. The friend building something real beside you. The people whose respect you'd be proud to earn at 40. The version of you 10 years ahead, watching how you spend this decade. Those are legitimate witnesses. They've seen the current you. Their nod means something because it's based on facts on a person who exists, instead of a frozen snapshot from a hallway you'll never walk again. And here's the leverage in all of this. The moment you see the template, you get to edit it. Most people stay blind to it their whole lives. They feel the vague pressure, the flat wins, the chase that never lands. And they answer it with more money, more reps, more output, all aimed at the same invisible jury. You're holding something better than more. You're holding the ability to ask, before you commit years to a goal, whose voice is this? And do I still respect them? Run that question and watch what happens to your ambition. Some of it survives clean, and now you chase it with your whole chest because you know it's yours. Some of it falls away, and the relief is immediate, like setting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. What's left is lighter and far more dangerous, because nothing fake is slowing it down. This is the quiet freedom nobody markets to you. Freedom from working for ghosts. And it changes the actual texture of the work. When the goal is yours, the boring middle stops feeling like a punishment. You can sit with a hard skill for 2 years because the doing itself pays you, instead of only the moment someone claps. You stop needing the project to go viral, to feel real. You stop measuring a training block by whether anyone noticed your shoulders. The reward moves inside the act, which means it shows up every day rather than once, at the finish line in front of a crowd that may never arrive. Let me be straight about the cost though, because there's a real one. When you pull the old audience out of your goals, a chunk of your motivation goes with them at first. That borrowed fuel was doing actual work, dragging you out of bed, pushing reps, keeping you at the desk. Take it away, and the early days feel strange and slow, quieter. You're now building on desire that has to come from inside, and that engine is smaller at first, because you rarely fed it. That's the hard middle most people won't sit through. They feel the motivation dip, panic, and run straight back to the old scoreboard, because at least it pushed them. Stay in the quiet a little longer. The internal engine is weak only because it's been starved. Use it, and it grows. Every choice you make from genuine wanting instead of old fear makes the next one easier to hear. And the wins start landing differently. You hit a target and it stays warm past the first day, because the person you did it for is actually present. You. The satisfaction has nowhere to leak. That's how you know you've switched scoreboards. The win belongs to a witness who is actually there for the work, so it has nothing to prove and nowhere to leak. Think about what that does to the next 20 years. The average person spends a whole life feeding a template installed before they could legally drive, wondering why arriving never feels like arriving. You get to spend yours building toward things that stay satisfying once you have them. On a list you actually wrote. There's a callback worth making here. That nod you pictured at the start, the one from the 16-year-olds crowd. You were always chasing one feeling, being enough in front of people who once made you feel small. And the trap is that you can't win that game by playing it, because they stopped keeping score long ago. The only person still holding the old clipboard is you. So put it down. The jury went home a long time ago. The trial's been over for years, and you've been arguing your case to an empty courtroom, getting better and better at a performance with no one there to watch. Walk out of that room. Build the thing that survives the privacy test. Earn the respect of people who've actually met you, and measure your life by whether the winds stay warm a week later, by whether they'd impress a kid frozen in a memory who has long since become someone else entirely. You don't need a bigger trophy. You need a newer audience, starting with the one in the mirror who's been waiting this whole time for you to turn around and ask what they actually wanted.